Welcome to Storyscapes, where storytelling and fiction meet in the most unexpected ways. Today, we're following a man who planned the perfect romantic getaway, except it wasn't romance he had in mind. Here's the story of a man and a woman and a murder plan gone very, very wrong. It was supposed to be the perfect weekend. Duma had everything planned out. Well, almost everything. He and his long-term girlfriend Naledi were heading to a secluded cabin in the woods. Or at least that's what he told her. To Naledi, it was an opportunity for some quality time. Hey, maybe even a proposal. She'd been dropping hints for weeks, months even. But Duma had another plan. They pulled up to the cabin, its rustic charm nestled against the quiet woods, and Naledi gushed over how beautiful it was. She had no idea, of course. No idea what kind of weekend this was going to be. No idea that her loving boyfriend had spent the past few months secretly planning her murder. A nice clean fall off a cliff during a hike. An accident. He would mourn over it, but he would never be blamed for it. As they arrived, Duma noticed something unexpected. The cabin, which was supposed to be secluded, wasn't so secluded after all. In the distance, there were cars. A lot of cars. And a lot of people. They weren't alone. As they unpacked their bags, Duma heard something that stopped him dead in his tracks. An announcement over a loudspeaker. Welcome to the annual Medical Forensics Convention. Duma felt the blood drain from his face. A medical forensics convention, right here, this weekend. Now, I don't know if you've ever tried to stage a murder during a forensic specialist convention, but it's complicated. Duma had planned on making Naledi's death look like an accident. But now, he was surrounded by the very people who could detect even the smallest trace of foul play. People who could tell the difference between a slip and a push just by glancing at some bruises. Of course, Naledi didn't notice a thing. She was too busy marveling at the beauty of the place, completely oblivious to the panic that was now bubbling inside her boyfriend. The next morning, they set off for a hike. This was it, Duma thought. The perfect moment. He'd led her to the cliffside. Just a little push, and it would all be over. As they reached the top of the cliff, she stood at the edge, admiring the view, while he positioned himself behind her. All he needed was one tiny shove. But then, just as he was about to act, a group of people appeared, loud, chattering, enthusiastic, and not just any group of people. It was them, the forensic experts. Hey everyone, one of them called. Gather around, we're going to demonstrate how to detect blunt force trauma from a fall. Isn't this the perfect spot for it? Duma froze, his perfect plan shattered by a crowd of nerds in lab coats, gathering to give a live demonstration on how to detect the very thing he was about to do. He stepped back, defeated, as the group crowded the cliff, chattering about bone fractures and velocity impacts. Later that evening, Duma thought he'd try a different approach. Dinner. Something simple. Maybe a nice home-cooked meal with a little poison, of course. Something tasteless. Untraceable. How about we stay in tonight, he suggested, trying to keep his voice light. I'll cook us something special. But Naledi, with her usual enthusiasm, had other plans. Oh, babe, that's sweet, but let's go out. We're on vacation. Let's treat ourselves. And before he could argue, they were off to a restaurant. His hopes of quietly poisoning her steak? Gone. Instead, they sat in a bustling little eatery, surrounded by, you guessed it, more forensics experts, enjoying a relaxing dinner. Duma could hardly touch his food. too busy glaring at the forensic specialist chatting away at the next table. The next day, he tried again. Another hike, another cliff. But this time he thought, I'll make it look like a selfie accident. They reached the scenic overlook, and Naledi squealed with excitement. Come, babe, let's take a picture, she said as she pulled out her phone. Perfect, Duma thought. He'd just stand behind her, pretend to lean in for the selfie, and whoops, over the cliff she goes. But before he could make his move, she pulled out a selfie stick. Here, she said, let's use this. I don't want to get too close to the edge, you know? Duma gritted his teeth. Of course she didn't want to get close to the edge. Why would she make it so easy for him? And just as he was about to give up, a friendly passerby approached. Want me to take a photo for you? The man asked, smiling. I'm actually a forensic photographer, so I can get the angle just right. Of course he was. By the end of that weekend, Duma's plan was exhausted. Every attempt, every opportunity had been ruined by a crowd of these nerds. That night, they sat by the fire in the cabin, her head resting on his shoulder, while he stared into the flames, wondering if he'd ever get the chance to finish what he had tried to start so many times. This has been the best weekend, Naledi whispered. I feel like something big is going to happen. Duma groaned internally. She must have thought this was going to be a proposal. But as she sat there, gazing at him with hopeful eyes, something unexpected happened. He broke. All the frustration, all the rude plans, the absurdity of it all, came out in one blurted accidental sentence. Will you marry me? And there was a pause. Naledi gasped. Yes, she shrieked, throwing her arms around him. Yes, yes, yes. Duma sat there frozen. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. She was supposed to be dead at the bottom of a cliff. Instead, here she was in his arms, overjoyed to be a fiancé with a proposal he had never meant to make. But in the back of his mind, he thought to himself, maybe on the honeymoon. Thanks for tuning in to Storyscapes, where story and fictions make for strange bedfellows. Will Duma get another chance to pull off his perfect crime, or is he destined to be the world's most frustrated murderer? Stay tuned for more misadventures in love and mayhem.